Welcome to the Winner's Playbook. Every winner needs a game plan, and this one's for you. Disclaimer: the information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into account your personal circumstances. Please head to the show notes if you wish to book in a free 15-minute call to discuss your personal situation.
All right, welcome back to the Winner's Playbook. Another episode here. I've got my usual co-host, Billy Norman. Billy, how is the week tracking, mate? What's the latest?
What's the latest? We're just doing a lot of work around investment committee stuff and some really interesting investment options for some of our clients.
Yep.
So I was at a conference earlier this week in Healesville, and then we got another advisor conference next week as well. So a bit of stuff out of the office. And how about you? You're not even in the country at the moment, are you?
No, I'm over in the Philippines, mate. So I'm in in our Philippines office over about 2 hours north of Manila in the Pampanga region. Not that anyone probably knows where on earth that is, but it's about a 2 hour drive out of Manila. And yeah, just over here for the week working in with the team. And yeah, the team over here is doing well. They're growing. You know, our team is growing very rapidly. And we have spoken about it on the podcast before around that business itself, which not everyone sometimes understands, that we've got our financial planning, accounting, and mortgage broking businesses, but we also have a business offshore called Lavera, which basically provides administration support to our industry, financial advisors, accountants, and mortgage brokers. So we've got about 55 staff over here at the moment and growing very rapidly. And no, it's good. Different culture, different foods, and yeah, they work different hours to us as well. So they actually finish here at 2:30 in the afternoon Philippines time. So everyone here is getting close to knocking off for the day. And then I feel like I can work another whole day because I've got nothing else to do after this. So I'll probably be back in the room and I'll put in a sort of 7-8 hour shift hereafter. So that's me, but maybe not all of our listeners. So that's what I'm going to be doing, Billy.
Well, tell us about the food. Like, what's the plan? You got any going to a restaurant or anything like that, or what's happening?
I was hoping to, but I've got to get on an early flight out to Thailand actually tomorrow. So I'm going over to Thailand for a conference with the Entrepreneurs Organization, which I've spoken about before. So I don't really have any time for any downtime this trip at all, which is a little frustrating. But I've done some good stuff already with the team here. We had some lunch and some drinks. But normally when I come over here, they love taking me out to eat some stuff that's kind of unique to their culture. And some of the things I ate last time was like blood and it probably sounds a bit gross, but yeah, like blood. And it kind of was in a format where it's, I don't know how they've made it into something that's edible. It's not like a drink or anything. And a lot of animal intestines and stuff, which I think they really love over here in a luxury. But if they didn't tell me what they are, maybe I would have liked them more. But I think I was thinking about too much what I'm actually eating at that point in time. So today it's just going to be the old just eating in the hotel room. That's all it's going to be. Just room service and taking it pretty easy there. But I was curious, Billy, with the conference that you were at. So when you say some of those investments, like what are we talking about there? What are some of those investments that we're looking at there in the alternative space? We probably need to do a podcast on that soon, I would say, as well.
Yeah, it's a whole separate topic, but it's really interesting. So essentially, most people, when they think about investing, it's the stock market, right? Like it's companies that are public companies. They're listed on the share market, and you can invest through use a trading app or buy stocks that way. Well, there's a huge world of investments that are not listed on the share market. So like private equity, private infrastructure, real estate, all of those sorts of things. And there's a big trend of a lot of businesses choosing not to list on the share market.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you want to access all of those sorts of opportunities, yeah, that's a whole world that I've been delving into recently. And so, yeah, the goal is to package something up for our clients, which works well.
Which sounds like a good podcast episode coming up. I think getting into the alternative world. It sounds
That's
super
a
interesting.
topic. Yeah,
it really is. Well, today we're not talking alternative investments, but we are talking about building wealth as a first generation investor. Probably something I can talk to a lot around in terms of my own life and building wealth, and not really having anyone sort of show me the path, so to speak, earlier on. But what do you think, Billy? What are some of those unique challenges people investing that haven't really had that in their family before? Have you seen that with some clients before, or just what's some of your own take on the issue there?
yeah, absolutely. Yes, I've seen it a lot. And I think one of the number one thing is who's around you. So the influences around you. Obviously, your parents is a big one.
Sure.
But who you go to school with, your friends that you've got. If there's no one around you who has built wealth or has any interest in it, then it's very hard as an individual to break out of that world. That's sort of the high level thing that I think about that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, like my thoughts in relation to it. I think it's a good point you raise though, Billy, because I was just doing the talk at Melbourne High School not too long ago, a couple of days ago, where I spoke to 250 students, and it was one of the points I actually spoke about of how important it is with the people that you're hanging around. And I was talking to all year 10s and year 11s, so it was really really relevant in terms of who you hang around with and the rub off effect that they can have, both positive and negative, and that goes to your family as well though, which you obviously can't choose your family. But I look back on my own life, and when my life really changed is when I actually left home and got out of home and got all the responsibilities and started learning and failing. That's when my life really changed. But look, if you are in a situation where you don't really have anyone around you and you haven't come from any sort of wealth or people that have invested in the past, which was very, very, very similar to my own situation, all I can say is you just can't have a victim's mindset, and you got to take it upon yourself to actually get out there and educate yourself. And that's what I did. I started reading books, courses, getting educated before I then started investing. And it can definitely help if you can hang around the right people and get around those circles. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you got to go out and create new friends. Ideally you can, but you could actually pay to get a part of groups or join networks that talk about this stuff, and or go to conferences around go to conferences on topics you want to learn about, and then speak to the people who are there. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but not having a victim's mindset, I think, is a big one. And yeah, if you've come from a family that doesn't have all of that, I think you take that as motivation. I certainly did. I take it as motivation to get out there and work harder, so that the generations that come after me didn't kind of do it in the way that I did. But that's probably another balancing act in itself, because you probably don't want to be too easy for the next generations as well, where it's just kind of like a walk in the park. That's another balancing act. But what about,
do you find, sorry, before we move on, do you find also there's, like, in Australia, this tall poppy thing? So if everyone around you is like that and you're trying to break out of it, or do, think bigger or do something different, do you think also people around you might try and shut that down or feel like threatened by it?
I think sometimes, yeah, I think so. Like, I think the general consensus, I'll say probably most people would be like that, but it kind of reverts back clearly to who you're surrounding yourself with. And if you've got people where you're coming up with ideas, you're trying this, and they're like, oh, like, why are you doing that? You're wasting your time. Like, that just sounds stupid. And you've got all of those like naysayers in your life. Well, yeah, it kind of goes back to that point to get them out of to get out of your life, because it'll just hold you back, kind of like a cancer in a way. And if it grows too much, you just got to cut it out. And sometimes it is a reality like that in your life. You just got to cut those people out of your life. And yeah, it's unfortunate. I think that some of the Western society is like that. Like, they don't get behind the people really getting out there and having a crack and sort of shoot them down. I don't know. What do you think that is, Billy? Is that like highlighting insecurities in their own life, or what do you kind of see as the root cause for some of that?
That's one thing, I think, insecurities, right, and projecting that onto other people. But I think the other side of it, I think, is having an open mind versus a closed mind. Because if you grow up in that environment and you never get out of it, then you don't realize what else is out there and what's possible.
True.
Right. So it ties back to what you're saying about a victim mindset. You just think, well, I've got no chance. This is my life. I have to accept it.
Yeah.
That's a closed-minded way to think about it.
Yeah.
Especially these days. I was actually talking to two clients today. I was talking to about, what guidance you can give your kids as they're finishing high school and so on, and how it used to be like you have to go to university.
Yeah.
And that was always the mindset. You finish school, you need to go to university, because if you don't go to university, you can't get a good job. And then if you can't get a good job, etc., like this fixed path that you have to take. Yep. But nowadays, more than ever, you do not need to do that at all.
Yep.
There are so many ways to be successful in life and create wealth and build something without following that. Go to university, try and get a graduate job, work your way up. That is one path, but you don't have to take that at all. So it comes back to like just really being open-minded about what's possible.
And I always talk, actually, it's a good point, because I always ask clients around their own background and how were their parents around money, because you can usually sort of spot, maybe some biases or from someone's upbringing or how their parents were, and key decisions that might have been made along the journey, like were they involved in business, Did they take on any risk? Did they ever invest? Are they retired now and just live in their own home and they're on a pension? Like a lot of those things, generally, I tend to see common sort of traits and trends when someone tells me this. I'm like, all right, I'm already kind of thinking in my mind where they might have some blind spots or blockages that we might need to address, and the way that they're thinking is going to get them get in their way in terms of helping them get to ultimately where they need to be. And that's always something I open with to understand with clients, is because not all of what you've learned from your parents is always good. And also got to understand they grew up in different times as well. And
Yes.
paying down your debt when interest rates were 18%, that made a hell of a lot of sense to get out of debt as soon as possible. But then, a couple of years ago, we had interest rates at 2%. So I always heard it from family members when if I gave them an idea of what I'm doing, and they're like, holy crap, like, why are you doing this? Why business? Why are you taking on debt? Why are you buying another property? It's just a different mindset. It's a totally different mindset. But you can respect and understand from the times that they grew up in and where they come from. Well, no wonder it's always like, pay down your debt, don't invest, share market's risky, save all the dollars that you can, put it in a savings account. You can kind of see where it's all come from.
Yeah, that's it, 100%.
And what about starting investing then, Billy? If we're talking about starting investing, we're trying to give people some actual guidance here in a way, not advice, of course, but someone sort of starting out on their journey, or they don't really have the right people around them, so to speak. And of course, they have engaged a financial advisor, because of course a financial advisor does all of these things for people. But someone just getting started on a journey, don't know where to get going. What would you say to get started on the investment piece if you haven't really had anyone show you how to do it before?
Yeah, I think this is a really common misconception, is I need to learn how to invest to create wealth. Therefore, I'm going to get trading apps. I'm going to read about the share market. I'm going to figure out day trading.
Yeah.
That's wrong, in my opinion, because to be successful investing in something like the share market, you need to have the cash to do it. Like, you can't start with $1,000 and turn that into $1 million. Oh, you can. It'll take 30 years. So the most powerful thing you can do is investing in yourself and figuring out how you can generate more income. Right. So there's a few ways to do it. One is like a classic career path, working your way up in a business and into higher paying roles, etc. But to accelerate that, you really need to look at owning a share in a business, or becoming a business owner in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So not necessarily starting a business from scratch, but getting equity in a business.
Yeah.
Because once you grow your own income and become more valuable that way, that then opens up the world of investing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I actually, it's interesting. It reminds me of a point I was talking about with the team over here. I did a presentation to the team earlier today, and I was talking about the difference between an intrapreneur and an entrepreneur in a business, and what that means. And I think this is from the book, Patrick Bet-David's book, which I forget the name of the actual book, but he talks about it in his book that we actually went through in book club, and that's where it came from.
Yes.
But the concept of intrapreneur versus entrepreneur, and entrepreneur being, you actually going out and starting your own business and taking on all of those risks, or you be an intrapreneur where you kind of become like a high paying executive, where you go up into those top tier jobs within an organization, but without having to necessarily take on all of the risk of being a business owner, and kind of everything's on the line. And where, you see if I use some intrapreneurs as an example, some people in like huge companies like Apple and other companies where Steve Jobs or Jeff Bezos, but if you also look at, and Facebook as an example, you look at some of the other key people that were there from the beginning, or people that have come on board and then being given shares and opportunities and places in those businesses. They didn't even create the business, and they're like super wealthy, or they're earning a great amount of money. So you definitely, I don't think you definitely don't need to be a business owner to do that. Of course, having some equity can help, but I've got plenty of clients that are working sales roles, and they're getting paid good money, $500,000 plus. Like, I guess that's a thing for me though. If I was starting all over again, I would just try and look at getting into if we're talking about dollars in the bank, you ideally want to be in a role that does give you an ability to have an unlimited earnings capacity. So that's like some sort of sales role in a way, and I don't mean like selling cars or anything, but like just where your role does have some sort of linkage where there is an outcome and you can control some of that outcome. So you're not just getting a fixed wage, but you do have the ability to earn, a bonus, or if you hit targets or whatever it may be. I think that does greatly help. But to the point of also starting investing, you don't need to start with a huge amount of money these days. And I think you just have to start somewhere. And even if that is $5 or $10 a week, or it's $100 a month, start small, get educated. I think the key part of it is you just got to get educated. And then once you've invested in yourself as well, you're more valuable to the world. You're going to command more of those dollars in whatever you do, if that's in your job, or you're going to start a business. And then when the money starts coming in, then you can start pouring more into those investments that you've now set up, that you're only putting small amounts of dollars in to begin, and you've got all the right structures there. But I think the key part there, Billy, is obviously clearly investing in yourself. But what about
Exactly. So you've articulated that better than that's what I was trying to articulate. So I'm not saying everyone needs to go and start a business. That's very difficult and risky. But investing in yourself will give you a much bigger return than just going straight to the stock market.
You can never lose. In short. I don't think you can ever lose on investing in yourself, because it's
exactly,
as long as you don't go to a course and you don't take any of the information in. As long as you've gone and you're taking the information in those lessons, you never know where they can come in handy at any point in time in your life. And you may not realize it at that point in time, but then, a few years down the line, you're like, holy crap, like that thing I did, now I can actually see where that is going to be valuable in my life. So I think got to be open-minded is critical. But what about some common financial mistakes first generation investors make? I know for me, Billy, it was stock picking from the beginning and thinking I'm Warren Buffett. And I used to speculate a little bit when I got started on my journey, because I read a share market book, and I just went straight in and started picking out some gold miners. And I do still hold my first ever share I bought, which was A2 Milk. I still hold that company. Nice. I think just for fun. But I did buy that at, I think it was, I keep forgetting, it was around $1 or $2, and then I sold out some, and I think it got close to 20, and then it come crashing down. It's starting to rebuild a little bit. I think I only hold like 5 or 10 grand in that company now. I'm definitely not saying that's a stock pick and go out and buy A2 Milk, for full disclosure. But I did get started and had some winners and losers in that stock picking phase. What about you, Billy? What do you think? What are some common mistakes other than the old stock picking one, which everyone usually does?
We've all been there. It's more fun picking stocks. Doesn't usually get you a better outcome, but it's a lot more fun.
It is.
Yeah, that's the biggest one. Just thinking like there's this one magical investment that's going to 10x or 1,000x and change your life. That can happen, but that's definitely where it like verges on gambling, because more often than not, it does not work like that. Or you might get one investment that does that, and then you look for the next one, and the next one blows you up. So looking for that one magical investment that's going to make you a ton of money is generally a mistake that most people make early in their investment journey. And tying back to what we talked about before, investing too much time in stock picking or the share market or crypto or whatever it might be, as opposed to spending time on yourself and your ability to become valuable to a business and earn income, which you can then invest. So that allocation of time and the priorities there, I think, is a common mistake or a common misconception.
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty good. All I was going to add is, like not investing in things you don't know, which kind of goes into what you're saying. And look, there is a lot of spruikers and scams out there these days. Like, I'm always scrolling through my feed on social media channels, and the amount of people selling you that next best course or thing that's going to create this passive income or whatever it may be. God, I don't know if I think I know anyone that really actually makes money off any of those things. And I've seen some of my more sophisticated clients. I've got one that's coming to mind right now who got sucked into this property scheme a couple of years back. And this guy, if you had a conversation with him, you'd be like, whoa, he's a whiz. Someone like that gets sucked into an actual scam, but hey, he did. So it can happen to the best of people. But all I would say is usually when it seems too good to be true, it usually is. And another point of common mistakes would be if someone ever promises you guaranteed rates of return, generally you want to run the other way, unless it's just a term deposit or a savings account. If someone's ever trying to sell you an investment and it's guaranteed 8 or 10% plus, you should immediately be asking some questions. But again, it goes into the thing that people kind of want that silver bullet that's just going to fix their situation. And then, people play on their emotions and can quite easily get sucked into things like that. But when it's too good to be true, It usually is, unfortunately. I think we've seen a lot of that, and there's still a lot of that still goes on these days, and we see it with clients. So it's not ideal. But what about, we sort of touched on this, breaking generational habits that hold them back, best strategies for creating long-term wealth from scratch. Like if you're saying, how do you best create longer-term wealth? Is there anything that we haven't really touched on today, Billy, in terms of
okay, we said invest in yourself. What does that mean? What does that mean? So like one thing, I mean, it's hard to get away from the fact there's going to be some hard work involved.
Yeah.
You have to work hard. But I'd say, some people think, oh, yeah, go to university or get all these qualifications. I think it's more powerful to make really good connections and just get out there and talk to people.
So true.
Yeah, because I mean, we've heard it so many times where someone will finish their uni degree and they've got all this study, they've done a master's, and they jump on Seek or speak to recruiters, and it doesn't look great because they don't have a work history, they don't have connections, all those sorts of things. So I think that's underrated. Just talking to people, having an open mind, finding mentors, all of those sorts of things, as opposed to, say, just relying on books and podcasts and academic study.
And sometimes that costs money, yeah. And that even for me as a part of the entrepreneurs organization, I can use that clearly as an example because I have to pay the dollars every year to be as a part of that organization. And you're not going there to get leads or anything like that, but you're actually going there to learn and grow and then sort of rub shoulders with other business owners. And that point couldn't be more truer because I haven't even been in it for a year yet, but if I encounter any sort of problem, I can sort of put a message out on a WhatsApp group and there'll be someone there that knows someone who can solve it for me, or they've had a experience or learning that they're going to then tell me that I can then ensure I don't run into the same mistakes that they did. So I think that's a great way to finish, Billy, because getting the right people around you, get a mentor, invest in yourself before you start just putting your dollars into something. It's not complicated. It really isn't. It's a pretty straightforward formula. And I think when you deviate off that path, that's where you run into problems and you start to lose money. So I don't know if you had any other points, Billy, that you wanted to touch on before we close out.
Last thing I've probably learned after a long time is the importance of failure.
Yeah.
Like fail a lot and realize that every time you fail, it's simply something to learn from, and it's all part of the process. And all the most successful people you see out there have failed loads of times.
It's a great way to finish. Fail early, fail often. That's what they say. But it's what you do with those failures, of course. You don't want to just, you don't want to keep just kind of getting burnt. You have to obviously learn from that, and then you go further the next time up. But no, that's good, Billy. Really appreciate it, mate. And we'll wrap it up here. Everyone listening, getting value out of what we are speaking about, of course, 5 stars, Spotify and Apple. If you've ever got any ideas of what you want to hear us speaking about as well, please feel free to send them through to myself or Billy. You can chase us down on any of the social media channels that we are on, and I hope you are getting value out of what we are speaking about. But until the next one, Billy, I'll see you then, mate, and I'll try and enjoy my time over here in the Philippines and not work so hard.
Thanks, Josh. Look forward to next week.
Done. Take it easy, mate.